You wake up before the sun, not because you chose to, not because something reminded you, because your body has never learned to sleep past the moment the fire needs attention. And right now, the fire is dying. You are on the ground. Animal skin beneath you, another pulled over you, and the child on your chest. The child is breathing. You check this before anything else. Before you open your eyes fully. Before you register the cold, the child first. Always the child first. Outside, something is moving. You don't sit up fast, you've learned not to. Fast movement in the dark draws attention. You lie still, listening, reading the sound the way someone else might read a face. Footsteps or wind. Heavier light. Getting closer or passing. It passes. You sit up. The fire is almost gone. One orange coal buried in gray ash, still alive but barely. You move to it immediately, cupping your hands around it, feeding it dry moss, blowing slow and steady until the coal catches. A small flame appears, then a larger one. You add a stick, then another. The group stirs around you. Children. The older woman near the entrance. 2 men still asleep. No one says anything about the fire. No one thanks you. The fire is just there, the way it always is, because you made sure it was. This is how every day begins. Before sunrise, it is still dark and you are already working. The fire needs fuel for the morning. You know without calculating it the way you know everything, through repetition, through the body's memory, exactly how much wood will last until midday. You collect it now, moving quietly around the edges of the camp, staying within the ring of firelight. You are 23 years old. Your hands are calloused to the point where you don't feel texture the way you once did. Your left knee aches every morning from an injury 2 winters ago, a fall on wet rock while crossing a stream. It healed wrong. It always hurts now. You don't think about it the way someone would think about pain today. It is simply part of how your body works, the way the cold is part of how mornings work. By the time the first light appears at the edge of the sky, the fire is strong, the child is awake and feeding, and you are already thinking about where you will go today. Not what you will do, where you will go. The location determines everything else. What food is available, what dangers are present, how far you'll need to carry what you find. You think about the ridge 2 hours east. There were roots there last season, deep orange ones that taste bitter raw but sweet when roasted. You know the exact spot. You've been carrying that location in your memory for 11 months. Today feels like the right time. Hair body. By the time archaeologists found her bones, thousands of years had passed. What they found surprised them. A Cambridge University study published in 2017 analyzed the arm bones of ancient women from early agricultural communities and found they were stronger, significantly stronger, than the arms of modern female Olympic rowing athletes. These were not unusual women. These were ordinary women living ordinary lives. The work built the body. She walked 8 to 12 kilometers every single day, not on flat paths, over broken ground, to dense vegetation, up slopes, carrying weight, a baby on her back, roots and gathered food in a hide bag across her shoulder, tools at her hip. She had no concept of exercise as something separate from life. Her body was not something she maintained. It was something she used completely, every day, until the day she died. By her mid-20s, her joints showed wear that modern medicine would diagnose as chronic overuse injuries. Her spine, her hips, her knees, all carrying the evidence of years of relentless physical work. She had healed fractures in her forearms, her ribs, her feet, evidence of falls, of impacts, of the ordinary violence of living in a physical world with no protection from it. She dealt with her period using what the land provided. Moss, packed tightly. Dried animal hide. Soft inner bark. There was no managing it. Away from the group. No stopping work. She bled, and she kept walking, the same as every woman around her, the same as every woman before her. Pain was not something she solved. It was something she moved through, the way she moved through cold water. By crossing it, getting to the other side, and keeping going. The Aforaging, this is what they called gathering. What they didn't say was what it actually was. It was a complete and total mastery of the natural world within a radius of 50 kilometers. She knew, from memory, without a single written note, which plants flowered in which season, which roots were edible raw and which would kill you if you didn't cook them first, which berries could be dried for winter and which rotted within a day, which leaves reduced fever, which bark chewed and applied to a wound stopped infection, which mushrooms were safe, which caused death in hours, which caused death slowly over days. She held thousands of individual pieces of botanical knowledge in her head, and she added to it constantly. Every time she walked, every time something new appeared, Every time something she expected wasn't there. One mistake in this knowledge could kill the entire group. Not exaggeration. Fact, if she brought back hemlock instead of wild parsnip, identical in appearance to someone who hadn't spent years learning the difference, the people who trusted her judgment would die. Her children would die. She never made that mistake. She walked with the baby strapped to her back. A child old enough to walk stayed close to her side, learning by watching, beginning to build their own map of the world from hers. She pointed things out, showed them, let them touch, let them smell. The knowledge passed the only way it could, body to body, person to person, one generation to the next. When she found the orange roots at the ridge she'd been holding in memory for 11 months, she dug with a pointed stick and her bare hands, filling the hide bag methodically. Around her, she collected 3 other things she recognized. A dark leafy plant whose stems treated swelling, a cluster of small berries that the children would eat tonight, and a flat river stone. Perfect weight, perfect edge, that she'd use for grinding. She carried all of it home, 15 kilograms, 8 kilometers, baby on her back. She had her first child at 17. She had 4 children before she turned 26. 2 of them survived infancy. This is not a tragedy specific to her. This is a statistical reality of prehistoric life. Child mortality in hunter-gatherer societies ranged from 40 to 50%. She knew this before she had children, the way she knew everything. By watching, by living inside a community where birth and death were not separated from daily life, where both happened in the same space where people ate and slept and told stories. She grieved. Fully. Completely. And then she kept moving. Because the children who survived needed her to. She breastfed for 3 to 4 years per child. Not by choice, by necessity. Breast milk was the only guaranteed safe food for a young child in a world where water could be contaminated, where food spoilage was constant, where there was no alternative. Extended breastfeeding also naturally suppressed fertility, spacing her pregnancies in a way that her body and the group's resources could sustain. She gave birth squatting, surrounded by the other women of the group. No doctor, no medicine, no way to manage the pain beyond the presence of the women around her, their hands, their voices, their knowledge of what was happening and what to do. She was back working within days, not weeks, days, because there was no other option. Because the group needed her, the surviving children needed her, and survival had no maternity leave to offer. She carried that child on her body for the first years of its life, while foraging, while building, while walking 12 kilometers over rough ground. The child's heart beat against her back, her heartbeat against the child, a continuous physical conversation that never stopped. The tools they found at archaeological sites for decades were assumed to be made by men. Then they looked more carefully. Studies of grip patterns, tool design, associated skeletal remains, and use-wear analysis now suggest that women produced the majority of everyday tools in many prehistoric communities. The scrapers, the grinding stones, the bone needles, the weaving implements. These showed patterns of use consistent with female hands, female daily tasks. She made the containers that stored food through winter. She developed the techniques for drying meat, smoking fish, fermenting plant material, the food preservation methods that kept the group alive when there was nothing growing and nothing to hunt. She made the clothing, not sewing as craft, sewing as survival engineering, stitching animal hides together in configurations that kept warmth in and wet out in temperatures that would kill an unprotected person in hours. She built the first shelves, the first storage systems, the first organized domestic space. None of it had her name on it. None of it was written down. For most of human history, nobody thought to ask who made these things. The objects survived. The maker didn't. Hair Sassoya world. The group was her entire world, and she knew every person in it completely. Not casually. Not the way you know a colleague or a neighbor. The way you know someone when your survival depends on accurately reading their intentions, their reliability, their state of mind on any given day. She knew who could be trusted to share food honestly, who would take more than their portion if they thought no one was watching, who was sick before they showed symptoms, whose alliance was worth building and whose would cost more than it gave. This knowledge was not gossip, it was infrastructure. In most hunter-gatherer societies studied by anthropologists, women controlled the distribution of gathered food, which represented 60 to 80% of the group's total caloric intake. The hunt got the attention. The gathering fed everyone, every day, reliably. She decided how much each person received. She decided who received extra when resources were short. These decisions shaped the group's internal politics as powerfully as any decision made around a fire at night. She formed alliances with the other women carefully and deliberately. These relationships were the group's shock absorbers, the social technology that prevented conflict from becoming violence, that redistributed resources when one family struggled, that ensured no child starved while another family had excess. When she sat with the other women at the end of the day, they were not resting. They were maintaining the architecture that held everything together. What she knew, she was the group's memory. Every plant she had ever encountered, every seasonal pattern she had lived through, every illness she had watched and what had helped and what hadn't, every water source within a day's walk, every dangerous animal she had seen and where and when. She carried this inside her and added to it every single day. When the older women of the group spoke, everyone listened, not out of politeness, out of the understanding that their accumulated knowledge was the most valuable resource the group possessed. A woman who had survived 50 winters had watched patterns repeat that no one younger had lived long enough to see. Her memory was the group's early warning system, its historical record, its survival guide. This knowledge passed through speech, through demonstration, through the patient act of showing a younger woman exactly which route, exactly which depth, exactly which season. When she died, a library died with her. Nighttime. The day ended at the fire. Food prepared, distributed, eaten, children fed and settled. The oldest members of the group spoke. Stories, information, memory translated into narrative so it would stick. She listened, and she added her own. She was already building the library she would one day pass on. The fire kept the dark back. Outside its circle, the sounds of the night moved constantly. Insects, wind, the occasional distant sound that made everyone briefly silent, listening together. She did not fully sleep. Nobody in the group did, research suggests. Studies of contemporary hunter-gatherer communities show they don't sleep in one long block the way modern humans do. They sleep in phases with periods of waking, of quiet conversation, of listening. The group's sleep was a collective, staggered thing with someone always on the edge of consciousness, always half monitoring the dark. She lay with the child tucked against her chest. She listened to the breathing around her, counted the children by their sounds, faked the weight of the night the way she felt everything, as information, as data, as something to be read and responded to. Tomorrow she would wait before sunrise. The fire would need feeding. The child would need feeding. And 8 kilometers east, she already knew exactly where she was going. The truth. She had no record, no name written down, no story told about her specifically, no grave marker, no monument, no account of what she did or how she did it or what it cost her. But her bones are still here, and her bones are stronger than yours. Every medical breakthrough that kept your mother alive during childbirth traces back to knowledge she developed and passed on. Every food preservation technique that fed your ancestors through winter was something she invented. Every social structure that kept human groups from destroying each other from the inside was something she built and maintained, daily, without recognition, without title, without rest. She didn't do it for history. She did it because the child on her chest was breathing. And as long as that was true, she had a reason to get up before sunrise, feed the fire, and keep going. She kept going every single day. For 100,000 years, she kept going. And here you are,